Days of Creation by Nora, Everson. Why did God create the world? God created the world to show His glory. He revealed His power, wisdom, and love through creation, letting people know and experience Him. Day 1. God created light. God spoke light into existence. When God separated light from darkness, He established the concept of day and night. This is the beginning of creation, showing that God can make something out of nothing. Day 2. God created the sky and separation of water. In these verses, there is no mention of good, but the verses do mention waters above water, which is a concept that has been interpreted in various ways, some believing it could refer to a canopy of water vapor that may have existed during the early stages of creation. While the creation story is not meant to be a scientific explanation, it is a concept of separating water masses can be seen as a metaphor for the formation of the atmosphere, which is crucial for life on Earth. Day 3. God created dry land and seas. When God created land, He separated waters into seas and created dry land. He made the land fertile and ready to grow plants. When God created plants, He commanded the land to produce all kinds of plants. He created plants that bore seeds and fruit, each according to its kind. He made the first plants fully grown, which is kind of with each kind having its own seeds. God created the waters that were created on day 1 from dry ground. He called these waters the seas. He created the ocean and seas in preparation for aquatic animals. Day 4. God created the sun, moon, and stars. These lights were created to separate day from night, to serve as signs for seasons, and to mark days and years. The creation of the sun, moon, and stars marked the beginning of a structured time system on Earth. Day 5. God created birds and sea creatures. This is the first time that God created something with the ability to move and reproduce on their own, signifying a new level of complexity in creation. Be fruitful and multiply. This phrase is spoken by God to the sea creatures and the birds. It is a command for them to reproduce and populate in their respective environments. Some scholars interpret this day as representing the introduction of conscious life into creation, as these creatures can move and interact with their surroundings. Day 6. God created animals and humans. When God created land animals, He commanded the land to produce all kinds of animals, including livestock, wild animals, and reptiles. God created every animal according to its kind. He grouped the animals into 3 broad categories: livestock, creepy things, and wild animals. When God created humans, He created them in His own image, male and female. God gave His blessing and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it." God gave them every herb and tree that yields seed for fruit. God took counsel with Himself before creating humans, which is different from how He created the rest of creation. God created humans to be like Himself, to rule over the fish, the birds, and all other living things. God saw everything that He had made, and it was good. Day 7. God rested. On this day there is no further creation. The Bible states that God finished his work, which he had done. He rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had done. Genesis 2:2. The meaning of rest. While the word rest is used, it is not meant to imply that God was tired or needed to sleep. Rather, it signifies that God stopped creating and considered his work complete. Sabbath connection. This day of rest is directly linked to the Sabbath day in Judaism, where the seventh day of the week is observed as a day of special devotion and rest. The significance. By setting aside the day of rest, God is seen providing a model for humans to also take time for reflection and renewal. Key points. The creation story is a fundamental narrative in the Abrahamic religions, providing a theological explanation for the origin of the universe and humanity. The days of creation are not necessarily meant to be interpreted as literal 24-hour periods, but rather distinct phases in the creation process. The creation narrative highlights the relationship between God and humanity, establishing humans as stewards of the earth. Interpretation. Different religious groups may interpret the days of creation to be different. Some religious groups may interpret the days of creation differently, with some believing literal 24-hour days. Others seeing it as a symbolic representation of the creation process. Pattern. Some scholars observe a pattern in the creation story, with the first 3 days focusing on forming the world and the next 3 days filling it with life. Provides a cosmological backdrop. The creation story establishes the context for the rest of the narrative in a religious text explaining how the world came to be and setting the stage for subsequent events. Reveals God's character. In religions like Christianity, the creation story portrays God as a powerful, purposeful creator, demonstrating attributes like omnipotence, love, and the act of creation, humanity's special place. Many creation stories, like the one in Genesis, highlight the unique position of humans as being created in God's image, emphasizing their responsibility to care for the world. Thank you.